Hi folks, I'm Craig Taylor, and as always a huge thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel, the Bushcraft Padawan. Regular viewers and subscribers will know that for about 18 months now, pretty much as long as my channel's been running, I've been creating and sharing some navigation type videos. They're really aimed at people who are just getting into the field of map reading and land navigation, although they could equally be useful to people perhaps that haven't touched the subject for a while and just need a refresh. And I've been doing those, like I say, for about 18 months. What I thought I'd do today is to record a video that shows the different types of equipment, kit, gear that I use during my map reading and land navigation. To date, I've really concentrated on the map and the compass, and clearly they're not critical, but clearly they're very useful in terms of map reading and land navigation, but they're not the only pieces of gear and kit and equipment that I use. So that's the purpose of today's video, is just to show you the other kit that I use, briefly talk about why I use it and what its use is, and also actually show it in use as well. So I have a route planned out today, very short route, something of an unrealistic route because it is quite short, it is quite simple. The purpose is not to test myself navigating today. The purpose is to be able to create a video for you to see these pieces of equipment in use throughout a fairly short navigation route that I've set out for today. I would say that I've broken this route down into legs, and I'm going to be talking about or showing or demonstrating a different piece of kit in use in each of those legs. That's for the purposes of recording this video. In reality, and I'm sure many of you will be aware of this, in reality I wouldn't just use this, or I wouldn't just use that, or I wouldn't just use the other. I'd be using a combination of tools, techniques, equipment to help me navigate accurately and safely. But for the purposes of this video, I'm probably just going to be looking at one at a time. I hope that comes across okay in the video. So here I am at the start point, so here's probably a good place as any to start talking about what kit and equipment I've used to prepare for today's navigation exercise. So in terms of the kit and equipment that I've used to plan today's route, unsurprisingly I've used a map. That, you see the size of it against my hand? That is a full-sized Ordnance Survey 1 in 25,000 map. I've just folded it down very carefully. Once I've folded it down, you may be able to see that through the map case. I've secured it inside. I've ratcheted it down, I guess you could say, by using some very thick, heavy-duty elastic bands, and I've placed it all inside an Ortlieb map case. This is the second map case that I've had. The first one lasted probably in the region of about 15 years or thereabouts, and in the end I had to get rid of it, not because it leaked or anything like that, but because it just became so faded with exposure to the sun and the elements that it was difficult to actually see. That dog is doing my head in. It became difficult to see the actual detail of the map through it, so I got rid of it and bought a new one. So Ortlieb map cases, I've had two in my lifetime. One lasted about 15 years, so not bad going at all. So I used a map to prepare for today. I also used a protractor as well to prepare for today. The reason I like using protractors when I'm planning at home, it allows me to take from the map far more accurate bearings. The other reason that I like it, the primary reason, is, let me see if you can see that. Can you notice the apex here? The 1 in 25,000 Roma that's roughly in the middle of your screen now. Look where those two lines meet, and you may be able to see, I think you can, a small hole where that horizontal and vertical line on the 1 in 25,000 Roma meet. That hole isn't present on any compass that I've ever used. What that hole allows me to do is when I'm taking a grid reference from the map, I can place that hole slap bang on top of the object that I want to take a grid reference of, and I can see that object by looking down through the hole. I know that I'm smack bang on top of it. I find with a compass, the lines on the compass, the Roma lines on the compass, Let me show that to you here. A little harder to see, in fact much harder to see. Maybe this is a bad, there we go, just see it over my cheek there. That doesn't have a hole, it has a square. And I just find personally that it makes it that little bit harder to ensure that you are slap bang on top of the object you wish to take a grid reference from. I'm sure many people have got by with compasses for many years with no problems at all. But when I'm at home, I prefer the accuracy that Aroma will provide me. So I've used Aroma to prepare for today's nav route, and I've also put together a route card. Now I'm not going to go into this route card in any great detail. I might actually record a video on route cards at a future point, but I've put a route card together as well. Preparing a route card at home for me just gives me the opportunity to focus solely on the route and nothing else, and it also allows me to record on here the specific details about each checkpoint that can be difficult to actually locate on the day when you're out on the ground. So those are some of the things that I've used to prepare for today's route. So without further ado, why don't I make my way over to checkpoint 1 or RV rendezvous 1, and we'll look at what I'm using en route to get there. Oh, that? What am I doing there? I'll come on to that later on. I know from having looked at my route card that the magnetic bearing that I should be following from this point to my next checkpoint is 320 degrees. So I've set that on the compass, and I'm now going to use the compass, try and get a better angle for you here. I'm now going to use this compass, there we go. There we go, to move on that magnetic bearing to my first checkpoint. So the compass is the first bit of kit that I'm going to be focusing on and using today. And it won't be the only time that I'm using it, but it might be the only time that it's caught on camera. Here I am at my first real checkpoint. It's a bit of a cheat really, because I can see the start point from where I'm stood. It's just down the hill there. But again, this isn't meant to be a tricky navigation exercise. It's more about me showing you how I use the kit whilst I'm en route. So I'm at my first checkpoint. My second checkpoint, I've had a look at my route card, is 750 meters in that direction. There, pretty much straight into the lens, along this relatively straight track. I have still taken, because it's good practice, a grid bearing, converted it to a magnetic bearing, put that into my compass. I will still be using that, it may just not be on camera. It's also 750 meters along here. Now that's quite important, because there are quite a lot of track junctions along this track in a similar area. So I've measured it, and it's 750 meters from where I'm stood now to the track junction that I have set up as my second checkpoint. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my pacing beads that you can see strapped to my day sack shoulder strap here, and I'm going to pace every 100 meters along this route here. Every time I hit 100 meters, I'm going to move one of these pacing beads down. So I can count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 meters, and then I know that I'm in the area. How do I know how far 100 meters is when I'm pacing it? Well, if you look in this video up here, you'll see that I've actually recorded a video already about working out your pacing count, and I know that mine is 62 meters, wearing a similar day sack size to this, on similar ground to this. So every 62 alternate paces, I've covered 100 meters. And I will move one of these orange beads down. So you'll see me doing that en route, and you'll also see when I get to the other end that I will have 7 of these moved down, and I'll be midway to my it. So using pacing beads is a piece of equipment. That I use when I'm navigating a route as well. So let's get on with this route and let's see them in action. 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62. I've just hit the 700 meter mark, and if we look at my beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've been pulling them down from up here, down here. I have 7 beads here, so I've covered 700 meters. So if my normal pacing count is 62, if I pace another 30, 31 meters, I should be on or in the immediate vicinity of this track junction that I'm looking for. So 50 meters still to go. 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. Here I am at the second checkpoint, the second checkpoint on my route. Expected to get here on 31 paces, got here on 41 paces, so slightly miscalculated either the distance or my pacing slightly off. Today, it's not a big deal. I could see this track junction from way back there. It's a good clear day, good visibility, not a problem. Had those factors been different, had this been not as prominent a feature, had it been poor weather or poor visibility, had it been at night, that could have been a bigger factor, but today, for the purposes of this, it was okay. So that's how I used pacing beads to measure me and pace me to get me into this general location. But remember, I also used the route card, I also used my compass as well, so as I said at the beginning of this video, I may just be focusing on one particular piece of kit / technique per navigation leg, but actually I'm using a combination of them, or I should be using a combination of them to help even out any inaccuracies in any one particular method. Here I am at checkpoint 2, let's have a look at getting to checkpoint 3 now. Moving on to my next checkpoint then, it is another 4-way track junction. And I've got an altitude climb of 40 metres here over a relatively short period, so there's quite a lot of climbing involved in this route, or certainly not climbing, rock climbing, but an elevation from where I am at the moment to where I will end up. What have I used to plan this route? What will I be using en route to this route? Well, we know that I'm referring to the route card. We know, of course, that I'm referring to the map. I'm still going to set a magnetic bearing on my compass, but what else will I be using? Well, I'm going to be using timing as well. So I'm going to use my watch to time the time it takes to walk me from where I am en route to my new location. I'm also going to be using pacing as well in conjunction with the timing and the route card and the map and the compass. I've also used this, which is a distance, speed, time type of card here. I'm terrible at mental arithmetic. I'll be honest, I'm terrible at pretty much any type of arithmetic. So I carry this with me so that I know if I'm going to be covering or intend to cover this amount of distance measured from the map. I know the rough speed that I will be taking, given that I'm quite fit, it's good ground, it's good weather, I've got a light load on me, moving about 5 k's an hour. I can then work out if I'm moving at this speed, I need to cover this distance, this is the approximate time that it will take me. So I'm just going to set the stopwatch on my watch when I set off and keep monitoring that. It should take me to my next checkpoint. Let's have a quick look. It should take me 7 minutes and 36 seconds, so 7.5 minutes to be in that rough area. But don't forget, I'm not just relying on the watch. I'm going to be focusing on that in this navigation leg, but it's not the only thing, of course. There's the pacing beads, there's my map, there's my compass, there's my route card, as well, in conjunction with using timing from my watch as well. So enough waffling, let me start hitting the start button on this watch. Let me follow my bearing and let's get to this next checkpoint. Oh, what I'm doing to my watch? I'll come on to that later, promise. Here I am at checkpoint 3. Remember, on that navigation leg, I was using timing and I said that it would take me 7 minutes 36. Now that was based upon an assumption that I'm working at 5 k's an hour, which I think I am. It was working from that card, and it was also working on the fact that I was climbing 40 meters. So I was adding time on to allow for that. Should have taken me 7:36. It took me 4:24. So I was about 3 minutes faster, give or take, than what it said I would be. Now that's a lot of time. If you can imagine that error being multiplied over bigger legs, longer legs, that's a heck of an error there. So I've double checked the distance, which is definitely 300 meters. I've double checked the height gain, absolutely accurate. What I think the challenge is that I'm either moving faster than 5 k's, and I don't think I am, because all of my other nav legs that I've done today, which I didn't share the timing aspect with you, because remember we're just focusing on one tool or technique at a time, they were all pretty much spot on. What I think is I move quicker uphill, and this was the really only hilly part of today's course, than what this card suggests. This suggests adding 1 minute for every 10 metre contour line crossed, up to a maximum of 3 contour lines in 100 metres. I don't need a minute adding on per contour line in these conditions, on this ground, with this level of fitness and this type of pack on here. But long story short, I am at the checkpoint. If I had carried on walking for 7 minutes 36, I would have been way into the woods over there. But remember, this is a critical thing. I'm not just relying on one tool / technique. I'm not just going off time, and if I were, I'd be in the woods. I'm pacing. Pacing was almost spot on. It was slightly over, but I expect that because I take shorter steps when going uphill. So it was slightly over 300 metres pacing. I expected that. The bearing was spot on. The ground relates to the map. So that works. I am at the only track junction of this size in this area. So all of the other pieces of equipment that I use, my pacing beads, my compass, my map, my route card, they help to get me here, and that's why it's important that you shouldn't just rely on one tool, one piece of kit or one technique, but you should use multiple together to help even out and eradicate any errors or inconsistencies or high levels of uphill fitness. Let's have a look then at the my next leg. Next leg is a little unusual, so let's take a closer look at it. So why is this next leg a little unusual then? Well, all of the other legs that I've covered today, all the other checkpoints, they've been on linear points, they've been on track junctions, they've been on stiles, they've mostly all been on track junctions. Relatively easy to find them. This particular one is, I'm not going for anything on the ground as such, I'm going for the ground itself. I'm actually going for a non-linear feature, I'm going for a ground feature, and it is just a specific point on a contour line in a piece of woodland that's over in that direction there. So I'm just looking for a spot on the ground. I've got a specific grid reference, I know where on that contour line I want to be, and I know the height of the contour line. That's one thing other than the shape of the ground that a contour line gives you your elevation. Now then, cast your minds back. You've seen me a few times in this video fiddling with my watch. I haven't, on every occasion, been setting the stopwatch. What I have been doing is when I get to a known location, an absolute confirmed location, like where I parked my car, the start point of the route, checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, this checkpoint here, I have known where I am definitively on the map / ground. The map can then give me a point, a spot height, or it can give me a contour line that I'm on or very close to, so I can tell my elevation. My watch has an altimeter on it. It has a way of telling me what altitude I am at. So every time I am at a known altitude, I've been checking or changing the altitude on my watch to ensure that it remains accurate. I'm currently stood on an 80 metre contour line. My watch is reading, let me just bring that round, hopefully, terrible, it's bright sunlight today, but hopefully you can see that. If not, it is reading 78 metres. I'm 2 metres out. I can live with that. Remember, we never just rely on one piece of kit or method, we bring an amalgamation of them together. This is what I'm going to use for my next particular route. I'm still going to use my map. I'm still going to use my compass, I'm still going to use my pacing beads, I'm still going to time. I'm also going to make sure before I leave here that this is set to 80 metres, and I'm also going to ensure that when I think I'm in the right area that I look at this again, because all things being equal, unless we have a huge change in atmospheric conditions in the next few minutes, which is unlikely, this should now remain accurate, and it should be able to tell me when I'm on or around the 80 metre contour line. There's a lot coming together in this one. It's all off track. I'm literally going on a bearing through the woodland, taking into account all of the other tools and techniques that I've talked about today, and some that I haven't talked about today, to help me get to that bend in a contour line just in a piece of woodland at 80 metres altitude. fingers crossed, let's see how we get on. Here I am, where I think my final checkpoint is. Like I said, it's always much harder to be able to determine something that isn't an actual feature, a visible feature on the ground like a track junction. It's just a spot, it's a contour line on a spur at an altitude of 80 meters, which is where I think I am. So let's have a look. That was a tough leg, by the way. Took much longer than I thought it would. A lot of that was climbing over trees, so there was a lot of stopping and starting my watch, which of course always leads to some inaccuracies. It wasn't just a straight walk and stop, lots of climbing around things. Very close country this, it might not look it from the shot you've got behind, but the ground I've just walked through, very close country. Couldn't see very far, so there was lots of taking, work, you know, finding something that was on my bearing, walking to it, walking to the other side of it, taking something else that was on my bearing, walking to that. That's all time consuming, and of course that leads to an impact upon your timing, and invariably it has I think a slightly lesser impact on your pacing as well, as long as you remember what pacing you're at when you walked around the tree to take your next bearing and pick it up again. I'm waffling here. I'm reading out an 8-figure grid reference here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out where I should be, and I'm going to read out where my sat-nav, that's the other piece of kit that I carry with me. So big reveal here, I'm using a sat-nav. When I say I'm using a sat-nav, it's been in my day sack since I set off this morning. I took it out a few minutes before I switched record on the camera. If you follow me on some of the Facebook groups that I'm on and things like that, I might come across as being anti-GPS, anti-sat-nav. I'm absolutely not. I'm not against it at all. This unit is a very old unit. It's a Garmin GPS 12 channel. Very old unit. I've had this since about, I don't know, 2002 or 3, something like that. I had the Garmin GPS 12 XL before that. I've had a GPS for decades now. This is a very old model, by the way. I like them. I'm a big fan of them. What I'm not a big fan of is when people focus their time and effort on these and not these. When people go out with only this and not these. When people go out with these but don't know how to use them, that's what I'm down on. So I'm not down on GPS at all. And you know what, in a situation like this where it's been a tough navigation leg, it's been the toughest of the lot, where it would be very hard without those to be able to put your hand on heart and say, I know I'm there. I'm absolutely there. I know that. I think even the professionals would struggle to do that with no other features around them. I can't see more than maybe 20 or 30 meters. There's nothing for me to take bearings on and work backwards. It's very, very close country. So this is giving me a 10-figure, is it? It's giving me a 10-figure grid reference. I've written down an 8-figure grid reference. So let me read out the eastings first, where I should be. I should be 5450. I am 5454. I should be 9955. I am 9954. So I am meters, and I don't mean tens of meters, I am meters away from where I should be. The altitude on my sat-nav reads, it's fluttering around a little bit, but it reads 82. It's just shot up to 84. 82, 83, 84 meters. Remember, I should be on or around the 80 meter mark, so that sounds good. My watch says 78 meters, so that's the other side of 80 meters compared to my sat-nav, so we're bracketing things in here. That works well. If there was something on this spot, if I was looking for a casualty, if I was looking for somebody that was lost and that was the grid reference or the location they told me they were on, unless it was incredibly close weather or incredibly dark, and it could be, I'm not dismissing that at all, I'm pretty confident that I'd be on top of them, or certainly within sniffing distance of them, or where they were sat now. So that's been my video today. I hope when I edit this it doesn't come across too long and too rambly. I don't want it to be that, but I'm conscious that there's a lot to cover. Let's just have a really quick recap in no particular order. Things that I used to navigate today. things that I use to help me prepare to navigate today. Grab my day sacking because I'll be referring to that, won't I? I used a route card to plan and I referred to it during the day. I used a protractor to plan. I brought it out with me to show you on camera. I used a map. I used an Ortlieb map case to protect that map. I used a compass. I used a timing card. I used my pacing beads. And then at the end I used a sat-nav to confirm position when I was in a tricky spot, a tight spot. All of that together is roughly the kit that I would take out if I was going out to do a focused piece of day navigation, or if I was going out onto the hills for a wander. So maybe I will be wandering on the hills. I'll certainly be wandering on the hills. That's the kind of kit that I would use to prepare and take out with me. So, questions to you now. What was there in this collection of kits that you use, or that you use differently, or that you've never thought of using, or perhaps you've never heard of? Do share it. Share it in the comments below, either on Facebook or on YouTube. What was there in this video that was familiar to you, unfamiliar, or completely alien to you? Please do share it below. Was I using any of the kit in a way that you don't use it? Did I forget anything? What do you use that I'm not using here? I use pacing beads. Do you use something different? I used a route card. Do you use something different? So what do you use that's similar to mine but different? Please do let me know in the comments below. If you've liked the video, if you enjoyed watching it, if it's made you think, if it's made you want to grab your kit and go out and navigate, give it a thumbs up. If it's made you want to take a closer look at a map, please do give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you're not yet a subscriber, subscriptions have slowed down a little now, please, hopefully it will pick up again. If you're not yet a subscriber, and most people who watch my videos are not subscribers. So if you're one of them, if you're watching this for the first time, or you come to my channel repeatedly, please do click on this icon in this corner of the screen and you'll become a subscriber. And if you click on the icon in this corner of the screen, you'll be taken through to a playlist full of navigation videos that I've made in the past. Thank you as always for watching. It's really appreciated. I'm going to make my way back to my car now. Cheers, have a good day. Thanks.